As you guys saw in the thumbnail for the podcast tonight, Stephen King's The Long Walk has now been ordered by New Line. And this is pretty cool considering the fact that this book is Stephen King's very first novel that is now getting a feature film adaptation for New Line. This isn't like a Netflix adaptation or a Hulu adaptation, of which there have been quite a few for both programs, right? For on Hulu, you had 1122 or 2360 or 11/22/63, which was an 8-episode miniseries about James Franco going back in time and trying to stop Kennedy from being assassinated, which if you've read the books, you probably didn't care much for the miniseries. I never read the book, love the miniseries. And then Netflix has got a bunch of content as well, but this is going to be for New Line, who also is putting out It. So this is Warner Brothers once again trying to back Stephen King in a way that's going to be very profitable for them. So here's what we're dealing with here. It says here, exclusive. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark director André Øvredal. Now, if you've seen the trailer for Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, you know that this dude can make some horror stuff, right? Now, he's set to direct New Line's feature adaptation of Stephen King's The Long Walk, originally published by King under the pseudonym Richard Bachman in 1979. The Long Walk takes place in a future in which 100 teenage boys embark on an annual competition known as The Long Walk. Now, pay attention to the rules of The Long Walk and see if it ties into maybe anything else that has come out from Richard Bachman specifically. The rules are simple. Maintain a speed above 4 miles an hour, receive 3 warnings in an hour, and you're shot dead. The last one walking gets whatever he wants for the rest of his life. Under these grim circumstances, the boys develop deep friendships, despite knowing that each of their friends' survival is a threat to their own. Kind of sounds like the Hunger Games and Battle Royale and the Condemned and now even the Running Man. There's actually a lot in this story. I read the plot outline today on Wikipedia in preparation for tonight, and I was like, this sounds remarkably like The Running Man in many cases. But also Hunger Games plays a bit of it as well. So the novel, since its publication, has become a classic in its dystopian vision, the echoes of which can be found throughout popular culture, like The Hunger Games and The Maze Runner. The book is quintessential King in its coming-of-age themes, zeroing in on the humanity the boys who prevail amid hardship and despair, akin to the protagonists of Stand By Me and It. And yeah, man, like I'm not gonna lie, this is one of those the stories that sounds interesting, because as these boys walk, right, as they walk, it focuses on a 16-year-old named Garrity, who is walking. And he meets all the boys along the way, and some start falling and they're trying to help each other out. But there are kind of things that can be done, right? So you've got the police that are there, the guards that are there, can give them food, water, and other rations, but people who are watching can't try to help out at all, even though that they try to. And it's interesting to see how society watches this thing every single year. And one of the kids that comes in is this kid known as the Rabbit, who was shown this competition when he was younger by his illegitimate father, who happens to be some major player. And so he kind of feels like that's his duty to win so he can officially meet his dad. It's an interesting thing. It does feel like old school Stephen King when describing dystopian futures, right? It really does. It feels like old school Stephen King when trying to make these kind of properties. And I do feel a little bit of Hunger Games, and I feel a little bit of Maze Runner and Battle Royale. And there's always going to be competition in society, right? There's always going to be competition in society. We see this in reality TV shows, elimination challenges. It never, ever, ever goes away, but it is always interesting to see just how exactly, it is portrayed, because we like to see competition. I've always said that if they want to find a way to really deter crime, reopen up the gladiatorial rings, man. That's harsh to say, but it's true. It's really true. People would really like it. It would unite the country probably, because we have a sick desire to watch people get killed. It's just how we are. But no, really, it's like we like watching these kind of stories simply because of the visceral reaction that we feel to them, because deep down it is part of us. Like we might have as a society moved past certain aspects of this type of visceral, guttural experience, but you can never really take the wolf out of the dog. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? And that's kind of what these stories entail. And I'm, for one, I'm very curious to see how it plays out, considering that it's not a horror story. It's a take on a dystopian future, but is the horror and the intensity going to come from as the boys start falling one by one by one by one until there's only one who remains? And that is going to be really where the poignant satirical take on our society comes from. And I am hoping that it is a bit more subtle than perhaps the Hunger Games, which was far more brazen in its approach than quite literally anything else. So